Welcome to Peak World. In today's episode, we dive down into the history of Congo and the leaders who have shaped the country through maladministration, corruption, and sometimes good intentions. Congo is an interesting nation with more French speakers than France and more neighboring countries in Africa. If there is a nation in the world that has witnessed war in the last century, it is Congo. Yet it receives less media coverage compared to other nations. After the Berlin Conference, King Leopold of Belgium chose Congo and named it the Congo Free State, treating the nation as his own property. During his reign, there were widespread human rights abuses. Natives were forced to harvest and process rubber and were punished by having their hands amputated if they failed to meet rubber quotas. The world was largely unaware of what was happening in the Congo Free State because other colonizers did not covet that specific land. It is believed Leopold's regime was responsible for the deaths of more than 10 million natives. After many years of colonization, Congo gained independence from Belgium in 1960 under the leadership of Joseph Kasavubu, who became president by joining forces with Patrice Lumumba. Kasavubu was the first president, while Lumumba served as prime minister. The world knows more about Lumumba than the president. On the other side, Katanga became an autonomous province with its own president, Moise Tshombe, who opposed Lumumba's socialist approach. Katanga was a mineral-rich area with uranium, essential for nuclear weapons. Western nations desired to exploit Katanga's minerals, and Tshombe was their guy. After a great start in Congo, cracks started to show from the beginning. Kasavubu wanted a federal state, while Lumumba was a nationalist. This sharp division eventually led Kasavubu to order young Colonel Mobutu to arrest Lumumba. Lumumba was then taken to Katanga province and killed, as Moise Tshombe's dislike for Lumumba's socialist approach was not conducive to Tshombe's business interests. Patrice Lumumba was assassinated through the collaboration of Western imperialist powers in Katanga province. Afterward, Lumumbists started what became known as the Simba Rebellion to fight Tshombe, who was forced into exile in Zambia. The rebellion continued, aiming to take control of the government in Kinshasa. Mobutu, an opportunistic officer, convinced the president to recall Tshombe, because Tshombe was favored by Western powers, who could then be called upon to assist in fighting the Lumumbist rebels. Among the rebel fighters was Laurent Kabila, who later became president of Congo. Lumumba was replaced by Tshombe as prime minister, and the Western powers installed Mobutu, whom they protected because he provided them with what they needed from Congo. This frustrated many socialists worldwide. In April 1965, Che Guevara joined the Lumumbists to fight the government, as they wanted to continue Lumumba's Pan-African ideas. Che Guevara later explained his failure, attributing it to the Kabila guerrillas' lack of discipline and his team's unfamiliarity with the terrain. On November 24, 1965, Mobutu seized power in a bloodless coup. In the beginning of his reign, he spoke positively, blaming politicians for the lack of progress. In 1966, Mobutu began renaming cities with European names to more authentic African names. Thus, Leopoldville became Kinshasa, Stanleyville became Kisangani, and Elizabethville became Lubumbashi. In 1971, he renamed the country Zaire, referring to the Congo River as the river that swallows. It was during this time, in 1974, that the Rumble in the Jungle fight between great boxers Muhammad Ali and George Foreman took place, watched by an estimated 1 billion people worldwide. People initially thought Mobutu was a great leader, good at decolonizing, but it didn't take long for him to show his true colors. He killed many who opposed his government and many leaders of the Simba Rebellion. Mobutu's government was not loyal to any single ideology. He would shift from left to right. He visited China in 1974 and returned wearing a Mao jacket and with the new title of Citoyen Mobutu. Influenced by the Cultural Revolution, Mobutu shifted to the left and announced his intention to radicalize the Zairian Revolution. He nationalized businesses under state control, but due to corruption, everything in Congo failed. Mobutu reduced the size of the army from 51,000 troops in 1978 to 23,000 troops in 1980. 90% of his troops were from his own tribe, which caused many ex-soldiers to join rebel groups in neighboring countries to plan to fight his government. However, he was assisted by mercenaries. In 1977, he faced a serious conflict, the First Shaba War, when a group of about 2,000 Katangan Congolese soldiers, veterans of the Congo Crisis, the Angolan War of Independence, and the Angolan Civil War, crossed the border into Shaba from Angola. He was assisted by Western powers in this war. In 1978, the conflict broke out on May 11th, after 6,500 rebels from the Congolese National Liberation Front, FNLC, initiated the Second Shaba War. Mobutu again went to France and Belgium for help, but this caused him to make more enemies, as the Angolan government was anti-West and Mobutu was also supporting UNITA rebels in Angola, led by Jonas Savimbi. Mobutu's government also created more enemies within the country, leading to the creation of more rebel groups due to tribalism. In early May 1990, students at the Lubumbashi campus of the National University of Zaire protested against Mobutu's regime, demanding his resignation. On the night of May 11, 1990, electricity was cut off to the campus, while a special military unit called Les Ibu, the Owls, was sent in, armed with machetes and bayonets. By the dawn of May 12, 1990, at least 290 students had been killed. The massacre led the nations of the European Economic Community, now the European Union, the United States and Canada, to end all non-humanitarian aid to Zaire, marking the beginning of the end of Western support for Mobutu. This gave Kabila the opportunity to regroup, meeting with Yoweri Museveni and Paul Kagame to form a stronger force to fight for regime change. In 1994, after the genocide in Rwanda, Mobutu's regime welcomed the Hutu militia group into Kivu, which angered Kagame. He decided to help Kabila with Museveni to remove Mobutu in the First Congo War, which successfully removed Mobutu as president. Kabila became the new president and renamed the country from Zaire to the Democratic Republic of Congo in May 1997. However, his honeymoon period did not last, because the Congolese began to complain about Tutsi leaders in the cabinet and leadership of the army. So Kabila removed the Tutsi people from government leadership, which angered his former allies Rwanda and Uganda. They then planned to remove him in the Second Congo War, which became known as Africa's Second War. This war involved an alliance of Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi and many militia groups, while Kabila was forced to form a new alliance with Zimbabwe, Namibia, Chad and Angola. In this war, Zimbabwe fought hard to defend Kabila's government, but lost many resources. Congo has seen less development due to continuous wars from the beginning. There are few roads to connect big cities like Lubumbashi and Kinshasa, and while the nation is rich in resources, its citizens are poor. The war in Congo is profitable for both Western and now Eastern powers. The Democratic Republic of Congo's airspace is known for being very active, particularly due to the significant movement of minerals and the presence of numerous armed groups. It is considered one of the most active airspaces in Africa, despite the ongoing instability and conflict. On January 18, 2001, Laurent Kabila was shot and succumbed to his wounds. He was replaced by his son Joseph, who faced much resistance from neighboring countries and rebels inside the country. However, there was little progress during his reign, though still a lack of infrastructure development. The Congolese army remains very weak, often going months without salaries, which is why they are always defeated by rebels. Currently, Felix Tshisekedi of the DRC started well, but he later began to have problems with the M23 rebel group, who have already taken control of some regions in the eastern part of Congo. Recently, the leaders of the DRC and Rwanda met in the USA with Donald Trump for a peace accord, which we hope will last. What do you think is the solution in Congo? Making it a federal state and reducing power in Kinshasa? Fixing the army, or fixing relationships with neighboring countries? Let us know in the comments below. And remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more Peak World content. Until next time, keep rising.